Hello and welcome to Sim Strategy Gaming. I'm Sim. This episode will be about the third scenario of Railway Empire 2, Flagler's Folly. Looking at our mission objectives, we see that we are going to reach 10,000 citizens in Miami. We got to focus on Miami through all of the game. That will be sort of the main goal. Settler bonus will come very handy here. Settler bonuses cost a bit, but they are absolutely well worth it. We will also make 7 different goods available in Jacksonville at the same time. And then we are going to reach 120,000 citizens in the North Florida region. Looking at how we did this, there were all these connection bonuses, and we had to buy up some concessions in this region. Gonna wait with Alabama for a little bit, and then built this half moon around Pensacola, Tallahassee, including Jacksonville, our home city, Augusta, and Atlanta. And also then add upon this line where we can only afford one single track going up to Tampa. And but from Tampa again there is a double line here, so then we can put on 2 trains, and as soon as connection bonuses come rolling in, we will of course increase this to a double track, so then we can go back and forth. Starting all our trains in the actual connection bonuses, one here in Pensacola, one in Tallahassee, one in Atlanta, one in Miami, and one in Tampa. And that will ensure that we have the connection bonuses as soon as possible, and we're going to need this in order to first of all expand all our rails into being double lines. Here we can have multiple trains as they go back and forth, but here there can only be room for one as of now. Haven't bought any station extensions, no warehouses, no maintenance depots, no supply depots at this point. The trains will take some time to require these things, so then that can wait for a while. And neither have we bought up any of these industries or rural businesses at this point. We find ourselves very late in the game, so we have access to a lot of very nice locomotives. Later we will have dedicated passenger lines, and then the Flying Scotsman is an absolutely fantastic choice, 157 kilometers an hour, and also a very nice tractive power. But the Santa Fe will be our main workhorse. Quite a bit slower, but with a fantastic attractive power, 204 attractive power on this very flat terrain, will make for it to have almost maximum speed, even with a full load of freight goods. I choose to play as the general on this map. There are little use for tunnels and bridges, since they're very flat southwest part of America. And then his absolutely fantastic ability to have more revenues from freight and mail comes in very handy. Mail being one of those things that we are earning a lot from, and freight in the beginning is particularly important. And then to also have lower construction costs for rails is also very, very handy. Maximum amount of bonds, that is also always a good trip. Get your hands on as much money as possible, and just make sure to invest them well. One little thing to point out when it comes to the locomotives, that we will use this mountain for these dedicated particular freight lines, the freight only lines. But actually the Santa Fe has a little bit higher tractive power than being a mixed train, and then the freight train. So for more busy freight lines, we could actually use the Santa Fe instead of the mountain train, as it is a superior freight train. And now, about 6 months into the game, we have not achieved any new mission objectives, but we are coming on very, very good. But I wanted to show how I used the connection bonuses and those money that are rolling in now, almost 150,000 a week. That is not so bad. So first of all, most important thing, expand this so that we now have a continuous connection from Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami, connected upon this extra little freight lines here, one from Jacksonville being filled up. It's not allowed to leave the station before it has 8 wagons, of course. Wouldn't want it to go back and forth with the half full loads, costing extra money. And then a warehouse here in Miami that brings the sugar and corn further up to Tampa. In Tampa, in order to grow the settlement of Miami, it's easy to get hold of the corn, and it's easy to, and the lumber also comes in okay. But then with meat, there used to be a long way to get the meat here, all the way from Pensacola. Montgomery isn't included yet. So then I bought up the brewery here in Tampa, because there are more than enough beer on this map. So that, and then bought that up, was a little bit expensive, and then buy up a meat industry here that we own ourselves. Didn't bother to bump it up. And then the livestock resource here, which there are no need to buy at this point, with 100% utilization every week for 10 weeks. It is going to bump it up very, very soon. So there is an extra little freight route there, with a train coming in now right away. Other than that, I also added upon this little extra line here with the warehouse here in Edison that can receive lumber that goes up to Stewart here. So then the lumber here is brought down, particularly dedicated one lane track. Didn't have all that much money, but this is a cheap way of moving a resource from one place, lumber in this particular instance, down to another rural station with a warehouse. So then this line here from Miami, Tampa, Jacksonville now also has lumber. So then we will have lumber here in Edison, we will have meat here in Tampa, and then there is corn very close to Miami. And then to get Miami up and rolling as soon as possible, that is in many ways the main objective of this game. Keep in mind the settler bonus. As soon as Miami has all that it needs, do have money ready, cost about $500,000. So that will be a bit of money, but it's well worth it, particularly on this map. Otherwise, we can see that in our Florida region, there are a lot of these double arrows. See at the end of these lines, there will often be the least fulfillment of demand. So Pensacola with 66%, but Tallahassee then having 83, very nice. And Jacksonville, I think, have wow, almost 100. So the more connection it has from different sides, Pensacola only have connection here from the west, while Tallahassee actually have from both east and the west side. Jacksonville both from north and south, and also from coming in from the west, making for a very nice growth. Otherwise just connected Atlanta to this wool resource that it needs. And then I have afforded the warehouses, so then you can see I built a warehouse in Jacksonville that is now redistributing corn, lumber as well. Some lumber might wouldn't actually be. I don't think it's much use for it, but I put it up anyways. But then just in case, let's see. Yes, actually there are some lumber coming in here as well, even though it doesn't seem to be redistributing. The flow of goods is a very useful tool, but it doesn't show absolutely everything, because if it did, there would be too much confusion. It just shows the most easy ways. No conflicts in the warehouse, but and of course with cloth is particularly hard to get down all the way south. So then cloth goes on from this half moon main line onto the South Florida line here. No need for milk or vegetables or fruits just yet. And then a year later, we've been able to achieve our first set of mission objectives. And we, from Rise and Shine to Florida, we will focus on the Key West extension. And then to build an express status, achieve an express status on a rail line between Montgomery and Miami. So then, of course, we have to buy up concessions for Alabama, and then construct an immigration office in Miami. Do remember to build these immigration offices. They are absolutely fantastic. As soon as a city reaches 30,000 citizens, buy the immigration office. Libraries, that is a little bit more of a particular thing. But and I never used the museums. I haven't really figured out the use of them. Universities, of course, are also very important, because otherwise the cities would stop growing. But immigration offices are the absolute most important. That makes for a little city to go into a really big, nice city in much less of a time. And then to produce 9 loads of dairy products in Jacksonville. There's also a little bit of a trick, because Jacksonville is on the westernmost side of the map, while the only milk resource is on the easternmost side. But we will make that as well through warehouses, or one can build a particular dedicated line. And then we will focus on Key West, and further on make 11 different goods available in Miami. We also now see that we have the optional tasks to produce 9 loads of newspapers in Miami. Then other cities will have to grow to become really big in order to receive the newspapers. But Miami doesn't need to be the city that actually reads the newspapers. They can just produce them and send them off to other cities. And then we must also focus on a general growth, which will come to be in order for 4 cities to reach university size, so we can build universities in them. So then it's nice to have a good big circle that I will show later to ensure general growth all over the map. And then at the end, we will have to make 18 different goods available in Miami at the same time. And that is a little bit of a challenge, as Miami is far off at the edge of the map. It's much easier to make different goods available and to grow a city that has connections coming in from all sides. But Miami can only have connections coming in from the north, as we will see. Miami being way down here. But then what we did was to buy up the Alabama concession and then complete our half moon. So that is now a proper circle going in both directions. I've actually also been able to build a proper 4-line system. Money coming in, perhaps not so fantastically good yet, but still there aren't that many cities. There's only this one big Alabama Georgia circle here, but we will now have use for both the Bavarian I seem to have been using here, but I think that could be pumped up to Santa Fe instead. I'm not quite sure why I chose the Bavarian instead, Santa Fe being superior. But anyways, there will be a mixture here of mixed lines at the outermost rims, and then to have express dedicated lines here. This makes us a lot of money, but doesn't increase the city growth. But as the cities have grown, then there will be use for these dedicated passengers lines that have the special wagons, the mail wagon and the dining wagon, to increase our revenue even further, and then to have this super fast A3 Flying Scotsman going round and around on this circle. Remove this little split here. Might want to build that up later on and build for. We're going to build this express line between Montgomery and Miami, and that will go from Montgomery down to Pensacola, Tallahassee, and then rebuild this split from Stewart down to Edison, further on to Tampa and Miami, and to have this this long line going along the western side of the map, the southwestern side. Dairy in Jackson will have to be bought up. There is room for that here, and then to bring on the milk. See that we still have surplus of milk, but more and more these cities will start to require milk. There's also more milk up north here, and hopefully it will reach down to Jacksonville. We can use some little special tricks in order to have to ensure that it has what it needs. Further on, we're going to go down Key West. That can just be done by building a simple extra station here. There are no need for any goods in Key West, so it doesn't need to be connected to any other line. You can just build a special station here and a special station in Key West. Make sure that it's on the right track, and then it seems to be this enormously long bridge, but it isn't so enormous actually. It can go on this the swampy area here, and that wouldn't be so expensive. So to connect to Key West isn't perhaps the most challenging thing. Having a quick look at the flow of goods. Now, there is only this one circle with this one South Florida connection, and then the Alabama Georgia circle, and wheat was distributed nicely all over the map. Corn now being picked up on all of these sides, just going straight on to the circular line. The circular line always have this stations placed outward, so that if I wanted to expand on this, and I'm going to expand this system further, it's important to note that if one starts with the innermost and then take the outermost build more outwards, then these curves will not be less and less sharp instead of more and more sharp. If I had built it the opposite way and started, you can see it here now that I use this say this little dirty trick or a little bit of an explanation of the game. You see that how would I manage to build a station here? This is sort of outside the allowed region. But what I did was that I had this factory here, and then I built one station like this, and then after that this area becomes allowed. So then I can build a station further away from the center of the city than I otherwise would be allowed to do. And that makes for a much more neater and nicer circle. So that's one way of doing it, making this nicer systems. More flow now having to go to Augusta, to Charleston. One can see that Is Charleston getting everything that it needs? You can just hold the mouse over the cursor over Augusta and see that, of course, Charleston is getting wheat. Wheat is on the line. Yes, it is getting corn from 2 places. Lumber going into Augusta and then being distributed all over the line, but also onto Charleston. Yes, that's going well. It has meat in the warehouse. It has beer in Augusta itself. Sugar is coming on nicely, being connected on to Atlanta here, and then further on redistributed from Augusta to Charleston. Now we had this popped up. This I should perhaps have bought the diary here in advance. Now I have to buy up this weavery down there. No point in having a weavery all down the way into Jackson. There's no wool around here, and it will take an enormous amount of capacity and time to get the wool from north of Atlanta down to Jacksonville. Milk, there is no need for milk in Charleston yet, but I still just set up the warehouse so that it's functioning. In Jacksonville, and Jacksonville of course being connected down to Miami, let's see what Tampa is receiving. Tampa has no need for, it has need. I might have to do a little bit of changing then. Oh, but it's full and I have to prioritize and such. Yeah, not quite sure how I'm going to do that. Might be easier if I build an extra line here and then I can bring down the corn in that manner. But see with Miami, which I've now grown into becoming a nice small little city, of course with a connection bonus and 2 arrows up, 91% fulfillment on demand, only lacking this cloth, which is particularly hard to get all the way down south, all the way from Atlanta. And this weavery here in Jacksonville is not for functioning. There's no point in having it there. Let's see with Tampa. It gets its corn down from Miami, get lumber to the warehouse in Jacksonville. Wheat is nicely placed on the map. It produces meat itself. Beer going to Jacksonville, and Jacksonville producing beer, but also having a warehouse there. I might actually been smarter to just take. I think I'm going to do this. Drop the beer, even though beer is coming in extra beer now. In addition to the beer that Jacksonville is producing, but I rather rely on the Jacksonville brewery to feed Tampa and Miami, and now there can be also vegetables coming down to Tampa, and Jacksonville being connected to this fruit up here. Fruit is becoming more and more in demand, and some of the fruit is sent down to Tampa. Now, about 18 months into the game, money are really starting to roll in, almost 2 millions a week. That can make for a lot of nice expansions. But we can see we've been able to connect Key West, grow Miami a bit, and produce the diary products in Jacksonville, and have this express status on the rail between Montgomery and Miami. Now things are starting to coming even a bit harder to deliver these 4 tools to Miami that we need in order to repair the Key West extension that had an unfortunate accident due to the hurricane season down south. And then also express status on a rail line between Charleston and Key West. And then achieving 4 cities with more than 75,000 citizens, that just come on naturally, because cities are growing so well now. So we just have to further focus on Miami and build a university down there. And we also already been able to make a newspaper factory in Miami, a publisher. And then have not only 4 cities with 75,000 citizens, but also have 4 university cities. So see how we did this. First of all, now Miami has been brought up to the 8-lane track. One here, that goes to Charleston with passengers, one mixed from Charleston to Miami, having this in parallel, mixed and passengers side by side. And now this one, I had this express line, but I didn't show that. I'm just gonna tell you about it. There was this express line that went all the way around there, but that was a little bit awkward in many ways. So then I rather just deleted part of it. It came up here, then it used to go on further to Pensacola and Montgomery. But now as we reached the set of mission objectives, and now that this clip is taken, it stops here. But it used to go on even further, because I rather wanted to expand this Georgia-Alabama circle into now being a 4-lane track with 8-lane track with 4 passenger lines, 1 mixed, and then also 1 set of freight only, because there are so much to do here now. The city's having growing so nice, and then it's good to have a freight only line going in both directions when one has the opportunity to build a full 8-lane system. In addition to the 8-lane circle here, there's also built up this hotel cross. One of my favorite things to have to build is to build a circle and then to have a cross in the middle. So then passengers can know this route here from Tallahassee to Pensacola that goes up and through the Chaplain Hotel down to Pensacola, and one here in that goes from Jacksonville to Atlanta. Might seem a little bit odd to build them in this half-moon kind of manner, but you can see there that makes for a cross, and now people can go straight from Tallahassee through the hotel, sleep over there for a night or two, enjoy their time, and go to Atlanta. And one can go from Jacksonville to the Chaplain Hotel to Pensacola. This will perhaps not make for express statuses all the time, and they are this mixed lines. I could have doubled them up, but there isn't so much to do on these lines, so that sometimes 4 lanes might be too much. And it's important to not build, when one build a layer track, to lay tracks in such a manner that one can put on the, say, about maximum amount of trains, and make sure that they are about, now this waiting time is 3%, but around 5%, that is optimal. But not less than 5%. If there are 0% waiting time, then you have built a line that is being used too little, and you don't get your money back that fast from building it. Sorry. In addition to the circle, the cross, and this split line from Miami, also built this northern line that goes from Atlanta, Augusta, Charleston, and there will be a hotel here in the west on this split, so that people that comes on this line that wants to not go to Charleston but perhaps rather go to Augusta, they can go through this hotel that is perhaps not so very busy. Most of the passengers that want to go from Miami to Augusta, they will switch trains in Jacksonville rather, and come up here. But there are a few that are spending the night at the West Hotel. Chaplain Hotel is a different story. That is kind of becoming really busy. One can see here now that there is this one lane that goes to the West Hotel, and there is another more freight line system that also takes passengers. lots of passengers actually, that goes through this lumber resource up here in the north. And then Atlanta having a station here that both serves as a docking station for the vegetables, sugar, salt, wool, and milk and iron actually. So that is really quite busy up there. But also had this extra line that been part of the northern line here. Having a look at the flow of goods, you can see that wheat is distributed very nicely on the map. It's both here and this Charleston connection, the North Line, and the Charleston-Miami line, and also serving Miami and Tampa always being filled with wheat, and wheat also being on the main line here. So lots of wheat, no problem there. But all the corn was sort of on the inside of the circle. So then it has to go from one station here onto the next station and being distributed like this. Both of these resources, pretty much the same story. And one down in Miami. Lumber through Jacksonville down to Miami, and also in Augusta. Meat, there had to be a meat redistribution from Augusta to Charleston, and there was a lot of beer all over. Now the beer factory had popped up again in Tampa. They really wanted their beer in Tampa, so when I bought it and demolished it, they pumped it up right away. Built it back on. Sugar also nicely being distributed here, Atlanta and Augusta to Charleston, and then serving the northern parts. But and then there couldn't be an extra warehouse here because that would make for a mess. But then this sugar resource here south of Jacksonville, it is distributing to a lot of different places, and there's also one sugar down here that goes on to the same line as this resource, and therefore not make for a conflict. But then it serves the northern parts and also to Jacksonville. The weavery, we now have a weavery up here in Montgomery, so then wool actually goes on to the line, onto Montgomery. Isn't so easy to bring down wool here, but there was need for you can see wool is coming in. But there are a bit of problems with having this dedicated industry-only resources being moved on. So perhaps I should actually have built an extra line or something so it goes directly into it. But one can use warehouses for these resources as well. There's only one wool resource on this map, and then having two weaveries. It's going to be hard to get enough wool for everybody. Milk coming in here in Pensacola, and then I think that Pensacola, it has the cheese, the dairy factory, so then it needs most of that milk for itself. But then the northern resource here is distributing all over. And one can see now that I bought up a lot of these industries so that I'm in much more control of where things are placed. I think I demolished the dairy factory down in Jacksonville because it was so long and so impractical to bring this milk all the way down there. So now the dairy is in Pensacola instead. Actually, lots of surprisingly a lot of vegetables on this map being distributed. These vegetables now both being on the same circle, the same system, so then they don't interflict as long as they are on the same. The only way when these conflicts come up and the problems with the warehouses occur is that if there are the same resource on two different zones, and these two different zones are connected to each other. Only one fruit resource, but one can see that it's being distributed all over the map, but it's not enough for everybody, unfortunately. Fashion pops up a lot of fashion factories, and now there are 2, but all on the same circle, the big circle here, and then being distributed to 2 warehouses to make more certain that Miami is getting their cloth. See if there is demand here yet. Yes, there is demand, but it is a little problematic bringing it all down. I might have to put up some little extra lines like this, for example, that only brings down the corn to Miami, and then there is another one here bringing down lumber to Miami. I set this up and then I delete them again, and I go back and forth and do a little bit of tricking. One can use the manual loading instead, but I rather just if I see that Miami is lacking something, say with planks, for example, they were definitely lacking planks. I go in here, I see where our planks produced. Our planks are here in Tallahassee. Then one just goes in here, go straight there, straight direction, turn off everything that isn't planks. Make sure that it's full, and then just let it roll down south as fast as possible. That will clog up the main traffic a bit, so then it might be better to delete them afterwards, so they don't go back and forth. They just go one way down, and then they delete them as soon as they arrive. But now and then, waiting for deployment, and I'm not even sure that there are. We must also make sure that there are planks, and there aren't any planks. So one had to take a little bit care of that. And then it took me about 3 years to complete the entire mission objective. We now have Florida renamed into Sim Strategy Gaming, kind of a nice title for it. Can show off the Key West extension. Built that so that it's now wouldn't absolutely need to have it connected on to the other lines. They could just also reconnect there to a different station. But one thing that I wanted to point out with the Key West, that when Key West at some point in this game they're hit by this hurricane, and then one cannot use the tracks anymore. If one just delete the tracks and then rebuild them, which doesn't really cost anything, then this problem goes away. I think that is a sort of a little buggy with the game. They should perhaps not be that easy. And also with these saboteurs in some levels, if they mess up your tracks, we can just delete the tracks and then rebuild them, and then the saboteur have no effect at all. So that's a little trick here. But anyways, we had to produce the tools to Miami, and then achieve the necessary express statuses, and making these 18 different goods available at the same time. That was a little bit more of a challenge, but it seems to be coming along nicely. Cloth still being one of those problems, but otherwise there are absolutely things rolling in here. I might not complete that in time, but still one sees that with this setup that will come on nicely. When it comes to the tool industry, that is iron industry, steel industry. So then I had the steel iron up here, brought that down to Atlanta, and then Montgomery was sort of in the middle of the of what it needs. It needs iron, and it needs coal. So then these were both brought from each side, one from the south, one from the west. But then it's still difficult to make sure that it has all that it needs. See how good we're doing? Yes, okay. It's not doing bad, at least, because with these 8-lane tracks, and then to particularly to have this only freight here ensures pretty much. But even this the track is this line is also being filled up a lot now. Haven't done so much changes to the system, but one can see that a steel mill requires it requires 14 of the iron, but only 7 of the coal. So then there was excess coal here as I bought this up, producing 15 a week, and that allowed me to also utilize this ceramics, this clay resource here to produce ceramics in Jacksonville, which also comes in handy. Always lots and lots of demand for clay, for ceramics as the cities grow. Pretty much all of them now being university cities seems to have forgotten to build one here in Montgomery, and then they stopped growing, which is always a sad thing. I like this general growth and to build up a really nice empire. And then had to make sure that to build this express status here, that wasn't so easy. At first I thought that this line here, the first line that I built, would suffice, but I couldn't achieve the express status. So then I made for this extraordinarily straight line that doesn't go to Tampa, just from Miami, Jacksonville, and Charleston, and also going down to Key West. That doesn't bring any goods, it just goes back and forth like this. And then finally I was able to achieve a mission express status as required by the mission objectives. An average speed of 140 kilometers an hour, that's a lot, because it has to slow down a bit at the stations, and there are these little curves, and sometimes it has to resupply and so on and so on. I mean, perhaps a last little look at some of these flow of goods. Just gonna sort of stroll over. See, at least with the newspaper down in Miami, and there now being a lot of demand for newspapers. This circle, this 8-lane circle with the cross inside, and now I also doubled the cross, so there are both passenger lines and mixed lines in each of these directions. There's a lot of things happening here, and this hotel is running absolutely at the full capacity, I think. A lot of passengers, a lot of mails being directed. And then to have newspaper down here in the city now referred to as Sim Strategy Gaming, formerly known as Miami, get its paper from Tampa, and the Tampa is getting its lumber from this lumber resource between Tallahassee and Jacksonville. Yeah, well, having a look at the company value, as long as we are building more and more, laying more and more tracks, the company value goes up. But now, as of late, that we have focused more on industry doesn't pay off as much directly, even though we are earning quite a bit of money from production as well. We are owning pretty much all of the industry all over the map now, because there wasn't any more tracks to be laid. And so with the 73% capacity utilization for our productions, we see that we are now earning almost more than half as much money from producing stuff as we are from delivering them. But still, passenger and mail is more than those two combined together. So, see if we now can be able to achieve the last mission objective, just to build a university down here in Sim Strategy Gaming. And then we made it, and see how we did that. Miami becoming this fabulous city. In real time in history, it started out as this minuscule little dot down south that nobody cared about, but nowadays it's this absolutely everybody knows about Miami. So made this, the optional task will come on later as we just continue the same setup, the same building, and then we will have 18 goods available in Miami not too long a time. Looking a bit at the high score list, see how we made it. Lots of people did this better than I, and well, but I'm pretty satisfied, and then of course one can go and look at other videos and see people doing this differently, having more direct lines going down to Miami. But then I really dig on having this high revenues and having a general growth all over the map, building a proper system. I am a little bit hooked on the system building and hooked on this way of making circles, my favorite, and then crosses, my second favorite, and then these long lines. No, don't know if I'm quite so into it, and I don't bother with manual loading, so that of course makes things a bit easier, but also not so powerful of a strategy. The most powerful strategy is definitely to set up long lines and then to put up manual loading and have absolutely control over everything. But that is so much of a bother, and then I'd rather do it like this. I think this is fun. So I guess that pretty much sums it all up. One can feel free to like and subscribe, leave some comments. That would make me very happy. And then I hope to see you next time around. And goodbye, and enjoy the game.